You're listening to the MoneyWeb Now podcast series with Simon Brown. Live streamed every weekday at 6:30 a.m.
It's Friday, 1st of October. We're officially into the final quarter of 2021. I'm Simon Brown, coming at you live and loud from the MoneyWeb studios in Houghton, Johannesburg. On the show today, chatting with Chantal Marx from FNB, Capitec results, Bidcorp results. Both excellent results, but market responded differently. And then Sean Saunders, Revex, and Willem Olivier from Mazars. They're talking around a new feature they're launching today at Revex, which is essentially proof of reserves. In other words, does your crypto platform actually have these cryptos? Well, Mazars will step in and make sure that they do. The show is brought to you by Stanlib. Visit stanlib.com to get in touch with one of their investment specialists. Stanlib Asset Management is an authorized financial services provider. Some morning headlines from MoneyWeb. Finance Minister commits to reforms and removing red tape to boost the economy. It was a speech he gave yesterday, a virtual speech. It was he's saying all the right things. Of course, saying the right things is different to ultimately managing to do them. Time will tell. Business Day, fully insured Pick n Pay estimates 1.8 billion rand in riot losses. That is a giant number. You need to check in with Sasria. Can they really pay all of these? And the retailer also says that alcohol sale bans has hurt the group in their trading update. Morning markets, US was red. S&P down 1.2%. Nasdaq down 0.4%. Asia is red. Sydney off 2.2% and Tokyo down 2%. Commodities red overnight. Gold 17.55, Brent 78.03, Rand few cents better 15.12, and what we're looking market 550 points down. That's almost a 1% red opening. That as 10-cent trades down 0.8% in lunchtime Hong Kong.
MoneyWeb Now, on the money. Also available on podcast.
Chatting now with Chantal Marx, Head of Research at FNB. Chantal, appreciate the early morning. Capitec results, staggering numbers, but that's base effect, because this was, of course, 6 months to end August. Headline earnings up 513% and the like. But the market was a bit sanguine, taking the stock off 3%. I suppose the numbers were good, but the Capitec share price is always just an elevated price. And if you want to be polite, it's an expensive share.
Yeah, I mean, Capitec is one of those shares that are priced for perfection. It's actually a really nice terminology. And what that means is that when you get anything other than the perfect set of results, you are probably going to see that share price come under pressure. And Capitec came very close to having a perfect set of results, if I'm going to be honest with you. The top line was better than expected, both on net interest income and net interest revenue, moving in the right direction. We didn't have any sort of nasty surprises on the credit quality side. When we looked at the dividends, it was actually slightly better than expected. Capital adequacy is strong, return on equity, all these the buzzwords were moving in the right direction. But their costs are looking very, very scary right now. So they're saying that their costs increased by 32% due to the impact of the pandemic as well as the civil unrest in July. But 32% is a massive figure. And what it does is it pushes their cost to income ratio closer to the old school banks, right? With the old difficult systems and, the stuff that Capitec brags that they don't have an issue with. And then the last thing that I think probably spooked investors a little bit was just the lack of any sort of clear direction in their outlook statement. It was very wishy-washy from my perspective.
Yeah, and those costs, when I take your point, I mean, their cost to income used to be in the 30s. That was rising, and I always expected it to get to maybe 40 or so. But yeah, I mean, they're going to get to those old school banks who sit in the mid-50s. If we look at it, and it's on a price earnings of almost 30. It's always been the most expensive bank by any measure. Forward PEs, price to book or something like that. I mean, is an investor better off perhaps looking at one of the other banks, even though Capitec is sort of the hip and hot bank?
So I don't think you necessarily have to box it into one specific bank, because Capitec offers you something completely different to the traditional banking space. They offer you very high growth rates. So even though the the multiples look high or the valuation looks high, the growth rate kind of justifies it to a certain extent. But you can expect bouts of volatility around results, especially when it's something that there's something that just doesn't look great, right? But yeah, I mean, it's not our preferred banking pick in the sector, but it certainly is one to consider. And you are, as I say, going to get much better growth out of it than the rest of
Okay,
the
quick question, because you kicked that door open. Which is your preferred bank?
So our preferred bank in the sector at the moment is First Rand.
Okay, no, that's a popular choice for many. Let's quickly move on. Bidcorp, stock up 1.9%. Considering they're in hospitality and the like, really, just solid results and just excellent free cash flow.
Yeah, and almost the opposite story to Capitec.
Yeah.
Bidcorp is not priced for perfection. Bidcorp is priced for COVID to continue forever. So you have a situation where the company is actually still trading through COVID in most of its jurisdictions, intermittent lockdowns, and it's actually showing very strong cash flows, a really nice improvement in momentum in revenue. And what's really stood out to me was their outlook statement, which said that they're extremely optimistic, and I'm quoting here, about the long-term prospects of both Bidcorp and the food service industry. And this is the type of thing that gets the market quite excited about an industry that has been under massive pressure and has probably borne the brunt, apart from probably hotels and cruise ships, of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, and the numbers in Bidcorp, it's just 100 billion there and 6 billion there. Numbers are staggering. They had some massive fraud in Hong Kong. It's hurt them. Do we hold that against management, or is that a case of particularly a diversified group like Bidcorp, where they sort of delegate out to the different businesses? It's sort of going to perhaps happen. It's never good, or do we look at management a bit askance?
Yeah, I think that because they follow kind of a hub and spoke model, and they do kind of these small acquisitions and trust the management teams that they usually acquire these businesses from to continue to manage the business in the way that it was being managed. I'm sure they did their due diligence on this specific subsidiary. I wouldn't hold it against management, because in terms of the hundreds of transactions that they've done, this is the first one that we've seen of this size, or fraud that we've seen of this size. But if it happens again, I think we'll start asking a bit more questions. For now, I think we'll probably give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that's a fair point. If it sort of starts to become something that's a frequent event. A last question. Taking the point that, as you say, their forward-looking statement was strong. Is this a stock that investors should be looking at? Certainly, again, not cheap, but there's COVID in the numbers, which messes things up a bit.
Yeah, you've seen a recovery in the share price recently, as well as in the rating, but I think that there's still room for growth here, and you're probably going to see really good growth in the next year or two ahead, as kind of the vaccine rollout gets to a point where you could see herd immunity, and economies properly start opening up, because you still don't have large-scale catering events. You still have pressure in hospitality and tourism. Yeah. So a lot still to benefit this company going forward.
Chantal Marks, Head of Research, FNB, as always, appreciate the early morning insights.
We all have different investment needs. Some of us want to preserve our money for retirement, and others to create wealth for the next generation. At Stanlib, we have a team of investment specialists that can help you achieve any investment goal. So whether your money is looking for more certainty, more return, or more impact through your investments, we have a solution for your investment needs, no matter the time horizon. Join us over the next few months as we provide insights into the solutions we offer to meet your money needs. To find out more, visit stanlib.com or speak to your financial advisor. Stanlib Asset Management is an authorized financial services provider. License number 719.
MoneyWeb now. On the money. Also available on podcast.
I got two guests on the line now. Sean Saunders, CEO, founder at Revex, and Vian Olivier, audit partner and digital asset lead at Mazars South Africa. Vian, let's start off with you. You introducing yourselves and Revex, a sort of proof of reserves for crypto platforms. My sort of the novice understanding, in essence, verifying that the crypto platform actually holds the various different crypto assets that they claim they do hold. Is that a fair thought of what this is?
Yeah, Simon, morning. Thanks so much for having us today. So the proof of reserve report is essentially a type of assurance engagement, which we call an agreed upon procedure engagement. Now, an agreed upon procedure engagement lists procedures to be performed by independent auditors such as Mazars, and then for the auditor to report on the factual findings of each of the outcomes of the procedures listed on the report. So with the proof of reserve report, we modified these types of engagements to perform certain procedures over crypto exchanges or investment platforms such as Rivix to provide current and prospective customers of the platform with the reassurance that their digital assets exist and that the funds are either situated on-chain or within a custody solution, as well as ensuring that the customer's investments are collateralized in the meaning that when you look at your online dashboard, you know that your funds actually exist within a wallet or on-chain address. So in other words, that the assets aren't fictitious.
This is essentially, staying with you for a second, I mean, if I've got a stockbroker account with the JSE, I mean, I look at it and I've got certainty that, it says I own 10 of that or I've got $100 in my account. I know that is there. And really this is, I suppose, bringing it up to standards of traditional exchanges.
Correct. So it's just giving that extra peace of mind and that extra bit of reassurance that the platform or the investment platform that you're dealing with, that they are actually holding the cryptocurrency and that is not being misappropriated or it doesn't exist.
Sean, bringing it over to you, Sean Saunders, CEO and founder of Rivix. My sense and my digging around, this is a first for South Africa. I'm not sure around globally, but this is certainly first locally for our market.
Morning, Simon. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on as well. So this is the first in South Africa. We decided that it's, I think, about time, especially given the other sort of scandals in the market. And I think it's, the scandals have been too big to ignore. You've had Mirror Trading International, you had the KG brothers. These are big events, right? And I've been fairly outspoken saying essentially that regulators should step up. They haven't stepped up. And this is sort of a way for Revix to step forward and to say, okay, well, we're going to do what we can with the independent parties that we can to prove that we are a legitimate platform, that we are operating in line with all local regulation. And I think our customers deserve this. I think customers for all other platforms deserve this. So we're kind of taking a stance now in South Africa to say, if you as a crypto platform aren't doing a proof of reserves sort of statement, at least quarterly, then, what are you doing? Like, are you supposed to just do everything yourself? And how do you manage this all? So that's really where Revix is coming in.
I mean, in essence, what you're doing here is kind of leading the pack and hoping that the rest of your competitors, but frankly also, I suppose, the regulators sort of come along for the journey so that in a year or two, it's not just Revix you're offering this just sort of becomes a standard. And in fact, if you find a platform that hasn't got this, you would look at them askance.
Exactly. And I think something that I personally, and again, this is my own personal opinion, regulators would probably disagree with this. But if you think about the biggest issue when you're looking at these other the scams that have occurred, right? The likes of Mirror Trading International and all the rest. It wasn't because they weren't KYCing their customers or going through that FICA process with their customers. It was the fact that back in the ranch or back at the office, that there wasn't the actual cryptocurrencies backing the assets that supposedly they were holding. So that's the biggest problem. And I think, addressing this through a proof of reserves report is essentially able to provide some sort of assurance to the public. And, from the likes of Mazars, a top auditing firm, we believe that's a big first step in this industry.
Yeah, well, I must say, I found a crypto platform, not in South Africa, it was an offshore one. Their KYC process was, please give us an email address, which is not anything. Vian, bringing it back to you, I'm assuming, when we say crypto, everyone thinks Bitcoin, but there's the baskets on Revix, there's the Polkadots and the Solanas and all of those. So it'll be the complete crypto offering from the platform.
Exactly. So what we're focusing on essentially is all the digital assets. So every single one of the digital assets held within an investment platform, with the Revix, for example, all the bundles, all the digital assets making up those bundles. So we look at the actual underlying assets and how they're stored and where they're stored to make sure we get that relevant assurance to provide that type of reassurance to the customers. So irrespective of how the cryptocurrency is held, we get the required assurance based on the procedures being performed on the proof of of reserve report.
And you imagine part of it. I mean, this must be an area which Mazars is looking at. I mean, your title is audit partner, but importantly, digital asset lead. This is a skill set that you've had to sort of build up within the business to offer these services.
Exactly. So it becomes a quite technical and quite an in-depth topic as well when it comes to digital assets and cryptocurrency. And we're fortunate in the position that we've taken the time and effort to actually invest and understand digital assets, understand cryptocurrency, understand the inner workings, and also understand the risks associated with cryptocurrency to be able to service clients in the sector. But more importantly as well, to take care of the stakeholders. So whether we're doing a statutory audit or proof of reserve report, that we're providing the stakeholders with the required assurance represented by the Mazars brand as well. So currently in South Africa, Mazars is the only audit firm issuing these types of proof of reserve reports as well, based on our expertise and experience in the cryptocurrency. And of course, as you mentioned, Revex is the first crypto investment platform in South Africa to provide these types of reports to its customers. So we're very excited to launch this product offering with Revex.
Sean, I imagine that this is going to be a public report. It's live today, and at some point, a user comes along to your website, they will be able to see the sort of the certification that's coming through from Mazars.
That's correct. You can actually head over to Revex right now. If you then go to our security page, which is just a drop down from sort of the top menu, you can then download the report, and that's available right now. So
there it is.
We had, because this report, actually the snapshot took place yesterday at 5:00 South African time. So Vian and I had a relatively early morning / late night, kind of getting that all done, because it's sort of the first time that this has been done in South Africa, especially. There has been a few international audits that have taken place with other big named exchanges, but it hasn't been, not that I've seen, a comprehensive report that looks at every single asset within that business. This is a report that essentially looks at every cryptocurrency that we hold to say, you hold this, Revex, you hold this on behalf of your customers.
Yep, and I see it there. It is certainly detailed. If I'm bringing you back to you, I mean, are you engaging with regulators? And obviously this is, as I commented earlier, kind of setting a standard in many senses, and a standard to which you hope the industry will follow. Is this also something that you have or will talk to regulators about and say, as you regulate in this industry, this is probably something that should be included in that regulation?
Yeah, so from a regulation point of view, and being an advocate of the industry being regulated as well, of course, surrounding itself with customers in the space that wants to be regulated, such as Revex. So the big question is whether these reports actually need to be mandated by regulators to say, well, for each digital asset service provider in South Africa currently, these reports need to be compiled and issued on a quarterly basis to, as Sean mentioned, to avoid the type of scams that we've seen. And to be honest, I'm really hoping this will become the norm going forward, whether we're operating in a regulated or unregulated space. If these types of reports were mandated 2 years ago, we would have definitely seen less scams involving cryptocurrencies. The good news, however, is aside from Revex, is also expected to issue another proof of reserve report to a large South African exchange in the next week or two. But hopefully this trend of social responsibility towards investors and customers will be followed by other South African digital asset service providers and add to the credibility of the crypto industry in South Africa and internationally, as well as ensuring a safer investment environment for all of its customers.
Yeah, and this is an industry sort of growing up. I mean, with exchanges, the JSE back in the 1800s was a Wild West, and it grew up. Last question: is this going to? I think you mentioned it was going to be a quarterly process.
Yeah, so I think Sean and myself had a discussion a couple of months ago, as Sean wanted to offer Revex clients an additional peace of mind and transparency that the funds actually are collateralized and exist. Now, as opposed to having a statutory audit only performed once a year, and of course the information from a statutory audit isn't necessarily available to the public, the decision was made to do this on a quarterly basis to make sure that as often as possible, Revex's customers and other investors in cryptocurrency get the required assurance that they need from these types of proof of reserve reports.
Okay, we'll leave that there. As I say, I'm busy scrolling through it. It's got some details there. I like this. This is a smart idea. Sean Sanders, CEO, founder at Revex, and Vian Olivier, audit partner and digital asset lead, Mazars South Africa. Appreciate the time this morning.
We all have different investment needs. Some of us want to preserve our money for retirement, and others to create wealth for the next generation. At Stanlib, we have a team of investment specialists that can help you achieve any investment goal. So whether your money is looking for more certainty, more return, or more impact through your investments, we have a solution for your investment needs, no matter the time horizon. Join us over the next few months as we provide insights into the solutions we offer to meet your money needs. To find out more, visit stanlib.com or speak to your financial advisor. Stanlib Asset Management is an authorized financial services provider. License number 719.
That's the show for the day, for the week. Our poll that we asked you yesterday was around chatting with Alex Dace, and we asked how you were trading this market. Alex is saying, as an active manager, they actually quite like the volatility. A quarter of you was saying, yep, you're buying it. 2/3 were saying you're being careful, with a small percentage left then saying now you are looking to exit. Today's question, chatting with Chantal Marks here about the Capitec results, a strong recovery from the pandemic. How did you rate the numbers? As she said, everything good, but those costs were a concern. You have your say, have your vote on our LinkedIn and Twitter profiles. The show is brought to you by Stanlib. Visit stanlib.com to get in touch with one of their investment specialists. Stanlib Asset Management is an authorized financial services provider. We're live every weekday morning on the MoneyWeb website and the app, 6:30 a.m. Podcast available just after 7. And thanks to my team, Eddie, Nicole, Nabokhle, and to you for listening, guests for their early morning contributions. My name is Simon Brown. This is MoneyWeb Now. We'll chat again Monday.
You've been listening to another MoneyWeb Now podcast, posted every weekday at 7 a.m. on moneyweb.co.za. MoneyWeb Now, on the money.